Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hello, welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. We're joining you a little after 9 on Tuesday, July 25th. We are in the dead of off season. Josh Bowe, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. It is the dead of off season. I think we're just we're rolling right into this. There's not a lot of Mavs news, but we can find stuff to talk about today.
Oh yeah, no, there's and
always something to talk about.
There's enough to kind of meander through to where I think we can have some good conversations. You know, the sometimes I judge like how much people are thinking Mavericks based off of the Mavs Moneyball Slack, which actually today was filled with a lot of like memes related to It's Always Sunny and our guy Jack going to see Oppenheimer and things of that nature. But it's nice to be talking. I meant to record on Friday, but like work just got in the way, so I'll try to figure out a way to do that this Friday, just so we can continue to talk to the fans about things that they're interested in. News wise, there's just not a ton going on. Today was the first game, like kind of friendly preparation for Slovenia against China. And Luka didn't play in that game. One of the things that's interesting to remember is that there's a ton of kind of like FIBA and NBA like agreement type stuff where these guys that play for their national teams have like, it's not super strict, but you got to pay attention to how many like days and games they can be with their national team. I don't entirely understand why that is. I'm sure some of our overseas commenters can tell basically what's going on with that. I would be interested to know the reasons why, because I think we would like to see all these guys play. But the World Cup stuff kicks off into gear here shortly. We did have like a piece of kind of it's Mavs news, but like we just flat out didn't cover it because we're all being kind of lethargic at Mavs Moneyball, which is fine with me. But the news that killed me was this totally bizarre riff and between Dennis Schroeder and Maxi Kleber, where Dennis, kind of mercurial Dennis, went on a podcast and basically accused Maxi of like kind of quitting on Germany last year. The weird part is that Maxi was hurt. So it was like, it was truly, it didn't really make a lot of sense. And Maxi just kind of threw his hands up and said, okay, I'm just not going to, I don't want this to be a distraction. I'm just not going to play, try out and play for the team. And Germany's pretty loaded with NBA talent. So I don't think he would have really gotten much burn anyway. which is kind of funny considering he's like a key Mavericks rotation player. But that was odd. What did you think about that, Josh?
Just Dennis Schroeder being Dennis Schroeder. I mean, aren't there some whispers? Dirk did not like him when they played on the national team. Yeah, because Dirk likes everyone. I mean, Dirk will he will shake Dwayne Wade's hand and like be friendly with Dwayne Wade, but like somehow Dennis Schroeder is the one guy that like he just did not like. So I thought that was just kind of typical for him.
Well, it's why
Dennis is a bad guy. He's just he just likes to run his mouth.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like, remember, he turned down the 4 for $80 extension from the Lakers, and now he's playing on like a minimum deal with Toronto. Like, just odd.
If I remember when he was in OKC, like I think he thought like he should be starting, even though Russell Westbrook was still there. Like he's always kind of had that. He's kind of like point guard Christian Wood in a way, maybe a little bit better.
I mean, he's clearly a good basketball player.
Right. Yeah.
Do you remember last offseason? He was tearing it up.
Yeah.
In qualifying stuff, and all sorts of Mavs fans are like, why don't we go sign this guy?
And this is
this is why.
And poor Maxi, because like you really like, dude, like I can't even imagine him playing international. Like he can already barely make it through an NBA season right now with the way his body is kind of aging. Like the idea of him playing an international schedule and then playing, an NBA, like, I don't know. It was totally understandable for him. So that's why I don't know why Dennis got so upset about it. That was probably the weirdest part. It's like, dude, have you seen this? He had a torn hamstring last year. He was hurt a bunch the year before that. Like this guy probably cares a little bit more about preserving his NBA future right now because he probably doesn't know how many contracts he has left in his career.
Yeah. And so just to kind of, so Dwight Powell is also playing for the Canadian national team. He was in a pro AM up in Canada and had like a 35-point triple double, which people, I want to say it was SJ who posted the picture of it on Twitter. I missed it in Instagram entirely. And I had people asking if it was like photoshopped, which just absolutely killed me. The interesting part about these World Cup things is there's a ton of friendly tune-ups leading into it. So our own Meta Robinson, I woke up this morning to like 6 messages from her. She started looking into like when Slovenia was playing and then realized they were playing that day and then just basically compiled their schedule as it is right now. It's up on MavsMoneyball.com, but it's worth me sort of reading out in case you're interested, because I think a lot of us are basketball brained and we're thinking, all right, the various teams that are participating, will head to the Philippines at the end of August. So we're like, all right, we have a month to kill. What are we going to do for a month? What are the things we're going to argue about for a month? Well, here's the thing. If you're a true sicko, and I really do qualify anybody that's listening to this podcast in late July as that status, you can go find some of these games. So the Slovenian national team plays Greece in Slovenia on August 2nd. And as of right now, Luka and Giannis are both expected to play. And it's like, that's probably last year when Giannis Antetokounmpo played in Serbia against Jokic. It was one of the best games, like one of the best games of the year, period, because the atmosphere was just outstanding. And obviously I expect the Slovenians just to totally bring it. Let me see here. Then they play again in Athens 2 days later. And so I something about just the way those games are structured. I bet both guys will want to play both times, but I something about that just feels it's tough. Because again, like we're talking August 2nd, August 4th, they play again August 8th against Croatia.
A lot of games.
Then they head to Spain for August 11th. They go against Team USA August 12th. They play Japan August 19th. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. These are friendlies. That's a lot of basketball. And so if you're looking, my point is that there's just a lot. Okay, the chat is noting that Giannis as a mate probably won't play because of a knee injury. So thank you for that, guys. I've little out of touch with my NBA news, even though I listen to podcasts all day long. At this point, it's kind of it's kind of background noise for my head.
Well, and all of them are just basically Damian Lillard updates at this point.
Right.
They're stretching that story out as long as they can.
Which, I mean, shout out to Damian Lillard, who's probably he has been the most well-liked superstar in terms of media coverage. Like, everybody just like gushes over him. Good guy by all accounts, but like what he's done here in this trade request and trying to force his way to a specific team has tested everyone's limits, including other players. Like Austin Rivers saying on a podcast that it's bad for the NBA is wild. So anyway, so there's just a fair amount of basketball if you really want to go watch it. Now, how to watch some of this stuff, quite honestly, you're going to have to find streams. People on Twitter will probably share some things. It's a little bit difficult to watch some of these friendly related things, but it's worth it if you want to watch just a very different basketball environment, because these 40-minute games are a lot more like the pace can, I mean, really vary, but you cut 8 minutes off of an NBA game. You basically, the longer an NBA game is, the more likely the better team wins. But in 40-minute games, you have real chances for upsets. So these games can be really fun. And the World Cup, the World Cup should be on ESPN. And with it, these games being in the Philippines, it'll be at times where all of us should be able to watch. I mean, you might be getting up a little bit early, but that's fine. I watched the 2008 Olympics in the middle of the night. It was great. I don't know. I really like international basketball. The commentators are different. It makes me appreciate NBA refs, which is always hysterical. There's just, it's one of those things to where if you want to overread into Luka's fitness, go right on ahead. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he looks like, because I mean, he's stated this, and we're just going to have to keep bringing it up. He's mentioned, like, I think playing for his country is more. It's more important to him on an emotional level than winning an NBA championship. And I respect the honesty, winning an Olympic gold, like winning an Olympic medal. I don't know if it's gold medal, but an Olympic medal is really, really something for him. And I don't blame him, because again, one of the things that cracked me up was when Iztok came here last year, he mentioned like the Dallas Fort Worth, like Metroplex area is like bigger than Slovenia. Yeah. Like, so it's like, okay, it's pretty crazy when you think about it in terms of population size, Yeah.
Well,
what else are we thinking about? You had a top-notch joke to lead off the day. And I sort of think it's worth sort of discussing just because.
Okay.
So why don't you don't got to explain your joke, but why don't you just sort of mention what you think is sort of going on in the Mavs social media sphere at this point in time?
Yeah, I think and to be fair, it's not specific to the Mavs.
No,
I've saw a lot of people like, oh, this is what the Lakers fans are doing now, and this is what other teams and other sports are doing right now. I think it's just kind of natural for fans to just want the next move. It's like, you get excited. You want to be excited again. So I've just thought it's been funny the last 2 weeks how much chatter there has been over the remaining free agent pool. Guys like Kelly Oubre, Derek Jones Jr., and then, Jalen Noel, who got some additional interest because I think a Minnesota sports radio guy or Minnesota Wolves insider said something about how the Mavericks had interest in Noel. It's Noel, right? Or is it Noel?
I don't know. I've never seen the guy play.
He probably doesn't
hear and lie.
Yes. And it's very funny how all it takes is that, and all of a sudden you got 30 Mavs fans on Twitter, or you got Mavs fans on Twitter being like, "Oh, I'm a big Noel guy. I want Noel."
Never seen him play.
You've only watched him when he's played the Mavericks. And to be fair, I think he had an 18-point game this season against Dallas, which is follows the trend line of guys that kill the Mavericks and Mavericks are then interested in. So I get it, but it's also like we were at the bottom of the barrel. We were circling the drain. And the idea of adding another mid guard to a roster that has 6 guards at least already that would be better than him. I didn't really understand people running with that rumor, especially when it's not sourced from a Mavericks affiliated guy. Like if it was from McMahon or Stein or Cato or the guys that we trust that are usually on point with the Mavericks, I would get it. But a random Minnesota radio guy saying this, I'm just like, come on, guys. I know the off season is slowing down, but let's calm down a little bit. Because I think they're pretty much done unless just like one of these trades open up for them. I don't think they're going to sign anyone.
Yeah, and I don't either. And the trade element of this, so there's, Stein reported a couple of weeks ago, maybe there's still something in Atlanta. That sort of feels like a staring match of who wants to give. And the Mavericks, quite reasonably, in my opinion at least, have decided that they're not going to put the 2027 first, which is the last one they can trade right now, into anything that's in the current sphere. And I think that's I think that's fantastic because it sort of sets the baseline. Now, I was reading a lot of our comments. Love the comments to the video, by the way, guys. I read every comment that we have out there. I do understand the trepidation about the Mavs center rotation. I really, really understand that. But I think you just got to go with who, fans hate Dwight Powell or love Dwight Powell. There's kind of no in between. I think Lively will end up getting more burn. Grant Williams will probably play some 5 with Dallas going in kind of like wonky, like small-ish lineups, but maybe not like just kind of odd size positionally. Like you maybe play Maxi at, you have Grant guard the 5, Maxi guard a 4 with some help. Like there's some real interesting, like not kind of, frightening, I guess, to some fans, but the center thing is just not going to fix itself. I've been reading a lot of social media comments to this effect where it's some of our more hardcore online and active fans are sort of still disappointed in the front office that they didn't move on from McGee. As critical as I am all the time, I still am of the position that they did so much in one summer that I would have liked them to do more, but I have a hard time being critical because as much as, the McGee contract was the worst contract of the last offseason for any NBA team. Somebody in the chat, Patrick, is saying, how do we get rid of McGee? I mean, by all intents, they're like, they really might just waive him. Like he's not going to be on the team, according to a couple, like I want to say it was Stein.
Yeah.
Like they're seeing if they can move him, but they can't. Like he's an awful contract, which was particularly weird because the Mavericks Instagram post had him in Spain doing some training. Like it was very odd. I'm just like, what is McGee training for? Like it's very, very frustrating with the McGee stuff. And I understand the fans' trepidation with it, but I'm just kind of, it is what it is. And I think, people are going to be, you'll have your growing pains with Lively, right?
Right. I think the weird thing is, you talked about the staring contest that they're having, like with the Hawks. Like the Mavericks are in a position where they don't need to be desperate anymore because they kind of checked a lot of their boxes. Mm-hmm. They got Grant Williams, Exum and Curry. They were obviously guys that they were wanting to get in free agency. They got those guys. The only thing that they didn't get was Thibault, and to be honest, that's probably a good thing, despite what the Mavericks might feel about it. But, they got Lively and they got Prosper in the draft. Like, I don't see the urgency to trade for a center when you just use the 12th pick on a center. And I understand that Lively might not be able to start right away, but, like, Clint Capella's got, like, I think another 2 years on his contract. Like, that's not a position of concern for me. Like, I would rather just roll with Lively or roll with Dwight.
It'd be one thing if they somehow, like, moved. I mean, I guess you got to move Tim to get him to a degree, but if you thought that Lively was the finished piece on turning this team from like a 4 seed or a 5 seed into a 2 seed, maybe you pull that trigger.
Right.
But right now, a lot of the if you were to rank the teams, the Mavericks are still in the play-in area. They just are. The thing about that is, like, when you remove Luka from last year's team, they were like bottom 10. Like, yeah, they tanked and got into the bottom 10, but like they were really extraordinarily awful last year. I still sort of hold my like weird hot take is that if they hadn't have traded for Kyrie, I think they might have like trudged forward and maybe finished like 9th or 8th in the West or figured something out. or if Luka hadn't have hurt his heel, I think the Mavericks might have made the playoffs, like between those two things. But the team, the broader team, was really lacking. We all know that now, and that's okay. But I'm willing to say that I'm sort of okay with the Mavericks being 7, 8, 9 right now, because I also could see a universe where they project up into 5, 6 if they get on a good roll. Like, we're sort of underestimating. Like, I don't want to say everybody's underestimating Luka, but if Luka plays a lot, the Mavericks are going to win a lot. When Luka plays, the Mavericks win. This is a trend because Luka's the top 5 NBA player. Like, it shouldn't be that. It's just they don't play, like they rested him for 8 games and treated him. You treat Luka like he's a fragile flower, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when he hurts himself that had doing nothing that rest would have prevented. Well, you just got to play the guy.
Yeah, and that's going to make a big difference. And again, I just Capella just isn't the type of piece. I mean, I guess if the deal is like, if it's Hardaway and not in fluff, then you're trading from a surplus because they have so many guards. They have to move a guard. They're not going to be able to play all these guys. And I guess it makes a little more sense. But again, you use the best draft pick you're ever going to have for the rest of Luka's time in Dallas. Knock on wood, obviously you hope that 12 is the best pick that they have with Luka.
Right.
You use it on a center. So like, you obviously believe in this guy to be the starter. And I just, like, this isn't baseball. He's not going to play in AA for 3 or 4 years before he will come up to speed and be ready to play maybe as soon as by like February of next year, being like a regular rotation 20-minute plus, per game guy. So again, I just don't see, like, why do you need Capella there, either roadblocking his development, not just this season, but a season beyond that. So that part just doesn't make sense to me. And especially like you said, like, I don't think Capella turns them into, they're in that 8 to 10 range right now. Like, maybe like that, he doesn't move the needle enough for me to make it worth it. Like, maybe
I do understand why fans feel that way, though.
Yeah,
like,
I know,
we have
because the position has
guys
been cursed for like 10 years, or
and
whole franchise.
Well, there's a couple folks in our comments that think that he might make a difference, and I will simply say that I understand feeling that way. It's, to me at the moment, it's not worth giving up that one last asset. That's where I am. So it's like, if the staring contest goes through and the Hawks are finally like, okay, we just need to take a step back to take a step forward, because isn't a Kongwu their other center? They're trying to get him.
He's better than Capella. So.
Right. So it's like, maybe the Mavericks win that staring contest and they're just like, okay, we'll figure this out, because
we're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined, so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
I don't know. I would really like to see that. The one thing that you touched on something that spawned, I want to say, I haven't listened to this podcast, so I really hope I'm not misstating it. But I want to say it was Brian Damaris on the Take That With You podcast, kind of made a bit of an offhand comment, going through talking about rotations, that as of right now, he sort of thought Jaden Hardy might be the odd man out. And so that speaks to the need to move Tim to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's Luka, Kyrie are starting. They're playing 30+ minutes every time they play.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Seth and Tim, which are proven veterans that are probably going to get the first shot. And then, you have Hardy and Exum. And it's like, where are you going to play all those guys? Because the thing is like none of those guys, aside from Luka, can really play up a position. Like, Hardy cannot play 3. He has to be a 1 or the 2. Like, he cannot be your 3.
Yeah.
We've seen Tim be the 3 for the last couple of seasons when they try, and that's not great because he's not big enough to play the 3 for extended minutes. Seth is very much a 2 or a 1. Like, he's a small. Like, these are not just. It's not like these are 6'5", 6'6" guards. These are 6'4", 6'3", 6'2" guards the Mavericks have. So it just limits your versatility a little bit. So I just don't see where the minutes are going to come from. And obviously, like I would want to see Hardy play more than, maybe even Seth Curry or Tim Hardaway Jr. because he's the future. But
this is an interesting comment. I want to address this. So our friend Zachary in the chat says Hardy is better than Seth in a one-on-one contest. In a team format, I think that is they're two kind of very different things. Seth Curry is quite literally the best NBA shooter or NBA 3-point shooter in history. Like, it's not a question. Like, statistically, that like he's insane. Hardy's pretty damn good shooter in his own right on the catch and shoot. I think it's a matter of like what roles do you envision these guys playing, and I think they would play very different roles. Seth is very injury prone. Like, that's not even remotely a question. So
yeah, injuries might solve a lot of this too.
Right. And that's where it's like,
sucks.
You look at this and you look at the depth that the Mavericks have right now. I don't feel like I'm getting sold a line of horseshit. Like, well, folks, forget about Frank. I feel like the Mavericks depth right now is like playable, interesting depth that I want to see. Like, I want, I don't want to pine for, that was part of the issue. Like, I had, I spent my weekend doing weird stuff on Twitter occasionally where I had a rash of people telling me that, the heck's his name? I'm already losing my mind with, who's my least favorite Dallas Maverick last year?
Theo.
People telling me that like Theo's fine and Theo's an NBA player because I made the statement that Theo Pinson is a top 1,500 player on planet Earth. But there's 450 NBA slots. And so that's not a knock against them. It's just there's this, 100-person. But so the back half of every roster, the back 5 players is pretty interchangeable with guys who aren't in the league. Like, I've watched enough basketball. This is the truth. And so I use when what the Mavericks did last year was assemble a team where 7 guys, like you go through, I need to just pull up the basketball reference page. Reference Dallas Mavericks. This is just great podcasting. This is guys who got minutes last year, and these guys are not NBA players. Like, full stop, not NBA players. Campazzo, Tyler Dorsey, AJ Lawson, Frank Ntilikina, Theo Pinson, Chris Silva, Kimball Walker, McKinley Wright. The Dallas Mavericks had like 7 or 8 guys who were legitimately gray area NBA players at best. Now, what they've done this offseason, and this circles back to the Seth and to the Hardy and to the where the Mavericks are going, there's some depth there that I like, or at least that I'm interested in. Like, Dante Exum is a big 6'5". He's a big 6'5". Grant Williams is a thick 6'6". All these guys have plus wingspans. Jaden Hardy has long arms. Josh Green is the only one who I don't believe is like his listed size. Actually, I don't think Jaden Hardy's 6'4" either. But they have really big wingspans. So it's like, I'm interested in some of this stuff. And I think that makes the Mavericks at least different. Hopefully it makes them better. And I think like that depth over the course of the year will pay off in ways where it really chewed up the Mavericks in the margins. Because that's where Dallas, you did this at the end of the year looking at some of the lineups. They just got crushed in specific areas. And I'm hopeful that they've done enough to where, they win 4 to 5 more coin flip games than where they got.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You do look at the logjam at guard, but now it's like, okay, we're last season where if Luka was out or if they needed to dip into the 12, 13, 14 spots on the roster, like you said, it was Theo, it was Frank, it was McKinley Wright. Now it's Seth Curry, Hardy, Exum. Like that is a legitimate like upgrade. Like, you look at their roster right now, and while they probably need some more like starting wing level talent, but I think you feel confident that if they have to go to the end of their bench in a case of like break glass in case of emergency, you feel a little bit more confident in those selections than you did a year ago.
Yes,
and that's a big win, because remember we were talking about like it always felt like they didn't care. Like once they got past like spot 10 on the roster, it felt like they just kind of didn't care.
I mean, they didn't care. Like that's like it's not a feeling. Like just again, Facundo Campazzo is a 5'10", 190-pound. Like when he was at his peak, he was an incredible basketball player. He's not at his peak. There's just no other way around that. Yeah. And you get guys like, so again, McKinley Wright filled in admirably. He tried his best, but they putting these guys. And I hear everybody says to me, it's like, oh, why are we arguing about the 14th, 15th man? 82 games, guys. Mm-hmm. Like look at these. Like you go look at. And again, nobody's arguing with me about this in the chat. This is just kind of like the big picture of it all. And when I'm in real life and when I'm in comments and stuff like that. But you go look at the Nuggets roster. Tell me who you think is a wasted roster spot from their finals team. The Miami Heat may be a little different. The Celtics are just a great example of this, where they had to make a business decision on losing like their ninth guy in Grant Williams, and he becomes the Mavericks' fourth best player.
Yeah.
Like this is the sort of stuff. So it's like when you bolster that back end, I feel like it maybe becomes a mild floor raiser. So somebody asked in the chat, are we buying into the Exum hype? And I'm like, no, but if he comes out and he looks decent, that's a huge win. Frank Ntilikina was never good. He had one good, like he guarded the crap out of Devin Booker in an important series. And I don't want to take that away from him. So in terms of being a 16-game player, he was very important to the Mavericks. But on a game-to-game basis, he was awful, unplayable, can't shoot, can't dribble, can't pass. He could defend, but it's just you can't. Like 2 seasons of that was enough for me. So I'm more than anything else, and this is probably just a rose-colored glasses, and again, from me of all people, I'm just looking forward to seeing new faces and new things.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I mean, that's what we've been wanting. Like the roster reached its expiration date, and they finally kind of put the new faces in there. And yeah, Exum, I don't know. I mean, it really is quite the upgrade over, the Frank spot, just thinking about, his overall game. I mean, and Exum was he was a much more highly regarded draft prospect coming into his draft than Frank was. Like, so, he still has a lot of talent.
He's put on He's put on good
older.
weight for the NBA too. Like he's listed. I'm just looking at him right now in Basketball Reference. He's listed at 6'5" and 214, and he looks bigger than that, man. He looks like kind of a like he could potentially guard small forwards on occasion if given the task. So I'm looking forward to that. And so it's like the center stuff, and we kind of walk down a bit of a winding path in this regard. David Sanchez asked, how did DeAndre Jordan help the Nuggets last year? I mean, but that's your 15th guy. That's a great point. But that's how many 15th guys did the Mavericks have? Like they had 4 or 5. Again, we believed in Kemba Walker for a week and a half till the Mavericks played his knees out against the Cavaliers.
He didn't even play a game yet, and the GM was already like, hey, he's probably not going to play. His knees are gone.
They killed him in one game. It was viscerally upsetting because I was my good friend Dwight from Twitter. We were arguing about Kemba almost the whole year, and it's like they just axed the guy because they played him so much and won. And I'm looking forward to the elements of depth because now I've been I don't want to do this tonight, but there was an interesting sort of should the Mavericks extend Josh Green? My short answer is yes. But I was listening to a podcast about it, and it's like, it's just there's so much to where the Mavericks can be different this year, then I'm really excited to like see what that looks like. Is all. I don't know.
Yeah, it just makes business sense for Josh. But this is like the year for Josh. Like, because right now I think he's penciled in as the starting 3.
Fascinating to me because I don't think he's a 3.
I know, but like they're not going to start a rookie, and the other option is Tim Hardaway Jr. I know, but come on, kid's not going to do that. But the other option is Tim Hardaway Jr. and I think Kid always wants to lean on defense first, and then he always is like, okay, fine, I'll put in the offensive lineup if these guys can't guard. So I think he'll probably lean towards Josh. But yeah, this is a big year because we've seen some numbers like rumored like he could be like 4 for 60, 4 for 70 in terms of extension number for his next contract, which is like if he continues his trajectory, maybe. But yeah, he's got to take another step.
Sam Vicini of the Athletic and of Game Theory, like him and his podcast host was like, well, if you don't lock him in now, he could maybe, if he continues on this path, he could go get 4 for 100. And I'm just like, I don't know. I see a very different Josh, and I have a hard time being fair about Josh. And I went and looked at his game log. There's a stretch at the end of the season where he balls out and then falls off an absolute cliff, where he goes from scoring like 20 to scoring 4. And Josh's next big step will be consistency. Yeah, because he was good last year. Like there's no question about that. He had 2 really rough moments. One when Kid like just recklessly started Justin Holiday over him, and then the second was when Austin Reeves became his father. That was a really tough moment. Like I'm serious. Like he was bad after Josh Reeves sunned him. That was really something else. But that stuff happens over the course of basketball. This is a good fact. JC in the comments says the Mavs really have 7 first-rounders on the team. I like that you pointed that out because that's been one of my big bugaboos for the past 5 years, where you go through pedigree. And I know,
many undrafted and second-round picks.
Once a guy's in the league. Bobby Corrala told me that once, and it's a good point. But I think they're just that element of it is really smart because I like some pedigree. Josh did not clamp up Austin in that clip. Like Austin Reeves cursed at him on national TV, and Josh Green looked like he had like been bitten. This is terrifying. Austin Reeves is nuts. He's like that guy. That dude. I cannot believe the Lakers got that guy at that restricted contract.
I know. And that guy, boy, your Pepperdine boy.
Yes, I really wish that like the San Antonio Spurs would have thrown like a confusing.
Yeah, what are they doing?
Just damn Spurs, help us out.
Yeah,
help us out. So, what else do we got? Is there kind of anything in your crawl? Like we've had some, we've posted a little bit. Like, do we think anything of the kind of the inching around like the weight comments? Like I've kind of Tim Cato in his last mailbag says the Mavericks key figures have talked to Doncic about decreasing his preferred playing weight this summer. I don't know what to do with that comment because
go ahead.
I mean, it's not his playing weight. It's don't put on weight during the season.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say the same thing too.
Like we put on weight during the season. We don't play basketball though. We watch basketball.
Right. Because the last couple seasons, I think maybe better. Yeah, last season he started well, and it was obvious, it like you said, it's rare because usually guys play themselves into shape, and Luka sometimes finds a way to play himself out of shape.
This is the best comment we've ever received. Regarian says in the chat, Scott Steiner voice, you're fat. Oh, that's peak. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, but that's going to be the key is can he keep it up? And also, again, I think part of it is like last season, especially his usage was just out of control before Kyrie. I know everyone loves that 60-20-20 game, and obviously it's like historic. It's incredible.
He was not the same after that 7-game stretch.
Yeah, like there was what were he like averaged like 45 points per game over 5 games or something?
7 games.
Yeah. And again, it's like he needed 50 to beat the Rock. Like you should not need 50 from Luka to beat the Rockets. They really need to find a way not rest, and that's kind of why they rested him, because they felt like his usage was unsustainable. So they got to find a way to play him more games, but ease the burden in the games so that he's not playing 38 minutes of the most high stress, high leverage basketball every other night.
That's way more. So like the weight
more important than the resting,
The weight thing I think is overblown, because let's just go through this. And I've been very critical of his weight, to be clear. 2019, 2020, he came into shape. He came into season in the best shape that he was probably ever so far as a Maverick. And then they started off 16-5. He then showed up at the bubble later that year looking like Superman. Because there was like a weird time period where we didn't know when we were going to play basketball again following the bubble, Luka got really out of shape. And there was criticism of like the commentary around it, but Tim McMahon has since confirmed that he showed up to camp the third year, so like Christmas of 2020, weighing 272, which respect. That's impressive. As a pair of thick gentlemen ourselves, we can really.
That's the closest we've felt to being NBA players.
That's right. I weighed 235 today. I was psyched. Yeah, I'm gonna get made fun of for that. Whatever. I'm 6'3". Yeah, and so then year 4, I think he was okay, and I think last year he was okay. I think it becomes a side effect because there's games where he looks weighed, like metaphorically and then physically like weighed down by the expectations and by the usage. And so if they're going to talk to him about something, they need to talk to him about that.
Yeah. And now the thing is, the Kyrie trade happened midseason, so it's hard to expect him to change a lot of his game. But you've got an off season, you've got training camp. Like this is the season where, like, Luka doesn't have help. Obviously, the roster still needs to be better. Like it's not a title contending roster. But he has a co-star, and he had a co-star. We didn't maybe know how good of a co-star he was, Jalen Brunson. But he's now had, between Brunson and Kyrie, those are two teammates that can shoulder the offensive burden. So we need to eventually see a shift, I think, from Luka to where he just doesn't have to do everything,
but
just for his own, just to preserve his own.
But it's not Luka doesn't have to. Luka wants to do this.
No, I know.
That's the part that frustrates me.
That's what has to change.
I would really like it if they were like, look, man, instead of being a hammer in the first quarter, be a hammer in the fourth quarter. Let Kyrie Irving destroy teams in the opening period, run them ragged, and you be the Pied Piper, throwing passes up the court, rebounding, basically playing power forward, and let Kyrie go to work, because Kyrie's amazing in first quarters. Him and Luka were, I think, among the league's best first quarter scorers. And as brilliant as Kyrie was in occasional fourth quarters, but I think like using Luka as that hammer in the fourth is the way to go, where, okay, if his usage rate in fourth quarters is 35%, who cares? Who cares? You're crushing teams.
So long as his usage isn't 38 in the first quarter.
Bingo. Let it be in the low 20s and orchestrate and get people involved. And hopefully, to be fair to him, I think he tries, but it's just like, there have been times where nobody could dribble, but they don't have that problem anymore.
That's the other aspect of it. So like before the Kyrie trade, I mean, yes, he likes to play like that, but also he had to. And then the Kyrie trade happens, and you're not going to get a giant stylistic change mid-season. These guys don't practice. Like they do shoot-arounds and walkthroughs. They just don't have time to practice with the way the NBA schedule is and trying to preserve bodies. So now that they've got a summer, they've got a training camp, like if it's still we're rolling out in October, November, December, and it's like the your turn, my turn, Kyrie sitting in the corner while Luka's doing everything, like then it's going to be like, okay, like we got to like something, you got to change up something there. So.
Woo! Brian says Kyrie needs to be the fourth quarter killer because Luka can't make free throws. But it's a funny comment, but that plays back into how exhausted that he's looked in the fourth quarter. And I just think there's ways to where, I know he wants to put his imprint on things, but that would be kind of where my head is. Obviously, we'll be talking about this a ton, but he's got it like to me, the weight issue is much less interesting than the control issue. I saw like a weird meme where it was like, somebody's showing it was like a picture of it was a great tweet, made me laugh, just wasn't true. It was like the Mavs front office showing Luka the points per possession on fast breaks versus post ups, and it's like, well, the Mavericks on like Luka, like a Luka Doncic post up on a point per possession level might be the single best play in the league. Like he's like damn near unstoppable down there. So that one made me laugh.
Yeah.
Christopher says Kid needs to actually draw some plays and schemes for them. Luka has to run them is the thing. The man wants to run a high pick and roll and get the switch that he wants. Again, not a criticism because he's an offense unto himself. It's just there's elements of this where I would rather see that closing than starting.
Yeah, I agree.
So. Well, we rambled for 43, 44 minutes. I think that's pretty good. I mean, I'm pleased with that. We're supposed to do 2 shows a week during the summer. I don't know, like Nick and Isaac, I think they have to do like 4, maybe 5 shows a week during the off season.
Isn't it every weekday?
Woo, brother. That's tough. Like I've got like a list of things we could go to because I always kind of think about this, but what ends up happening is like Josh and I go about our work days and then we forget. And then I will message him almost every Monday. Hey, do you want to record tonight? And then he's like, no, because it's Monday. Like who wants to do more work on a Monday? Then today we get like halfway through it. We record and now we're here and we'll be back next week. Will Kid do a leadership council again? Oh my God. Great question. We should, let's just come up with leadership council ideas. I'll try to record a live show Friday. Record a live show, so we'll just be looking for that. I'll try to schedule it probably maybe mid-afternoon like I've been doing. Come on, we can talk basketball, ask me questions. Maybe I'll do a mailbag podcast because I know some people don't really like to hop on and do those sorts of things. We do have this email address, podmaverickpodcast@gmail.com, if you would like to send us questions. I've not asked people to subscribe to the show. That would be very helpful. I should have done that earlier on. If you could, really appreciate it. We do lots of shows during the season right now. Josh and I are kind of mentally taking a little bit of a vacation, but we'll continue to pump out the content. There's a great story of Mavs Moneyball today about Jelly Walker. Our guy Doyle Rader, got to speak with him extensively. I really liked how that piece turned out. We have had some WNBA content from our man Christian, and I know that's not everybody's thing, but I like the fact that he's willing to write about it. We had a wonderfully funny piece about guessing where each Dallas Mavericks player sides on the Barbenheimer front. Love that a great deal. And then I think people 3 or 4. I got 3 or 4 things turned in today that we're gonna have to dole out the next couple of days. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with us here. 91 people. I know we're not locked on Mavs. We don't do 30,000 views, which kudos to them. That's tons of work. Emergency podcast when we get Killian Hayes. God, yes, I promise.
Yes.
I promise. Ryan asked, "Are you going to do a new call for contributors to Mavs Moneyball?" At the moment, we got like 26 people. Not kidding. Will I fire some of our staff? Who knows? Sometimes I've done that because people. Honestly, I'm not sure when we'll do bringing on more people. I kind of do it case by case basis. It's usually off season whenever it's slow. My favorite is when people ask me like 15 games into the season if we're looking for folks, and the answer at that point in the year is no, because we're already well underway. It's hard to onboard, but always feel free to send me ideas. We love Locked On Mavs, guys. Many people probably don't remember this because it was a long time ago, but Nick was with our site for like 2 years, posting. We before we got into shows ourselves, he actually would do an article and post every one on MavsMoneyball.com before he went to WFAA and do all that stuff. So we very much like those guys. They are our friends. We are friends with. I mean, people hate me, but we're friends with most of the Mavs community because we just it should be that way. All right, I think that's enough rambling for me. I'm gonna go play some Diablo.
Okay.
Necromancer absolutely slaps, and I'm really pissed off at whoever told me to play Barbarian because I just beat my head up against the wall.
Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
It's all right. I'm a bone shard necromancer, and I just like rain hellfire, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, yes. Someone in the chat says, listen to Kevin. Go listen to Kevin Gray's show too. Him and our friend Grant are great. They're slightly biased. I really like all the different shows out there. Our guy Bibbs, him and Reese, they do the Mavs Outsider show. There's so many shows, and we did a pod, like a post on this earlier. I'm always happy to promote other people's work because there should be different voices. And I was having a conversation about this earlier this week. I really think like if you are like listening to the show and you want to do this, 21 going on 77. Thank you, Leo. Those are love me some SJ and Dwight. But if you are like thinking about podcasting, you should do it. It's not particularly hard, but you should do it if you have something to say, not because you want audience, because you want to get these thoughts out. Josh and I started doing this primarily because we were like talking about all this stuff anyways. So we figured we might as well like share it with people. That's kind of what it comes down to.
Yep.
All right. Everybody be good. Enjoy the rest of the week. Let's try to stay hydrated. This heat is preposterous. I hope you guys get to go see the movies you want to go see. I don't know when I'm going to see Oppenheimer. It's really like 4 hours at a movie theater. It's hard. It's hard to find time.
It is hard. I mean, I'm literally taking a PTO day tomorrow.
Oh, that's right.
We're going at 10:30 in the morning.
Everybody leave Josh alone. He's gonna go sit and see Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Everybody be good. We'll talk a little later this week. Look for the broadcast on Friday. Go Mavs.